So our group is going to be building a COVID web crawler. The members are myself, Chris, Dylan, and Zach. And first, we'll be talking about the problems that we plan to solve with this uh, COVID-based or COVID-centered web crawler.
So one of the problems we noticed with COVID-19 is the stats are constantly changing all the time, and we don't have there exist too many unreliable resources on the internet as well. So trying to find the correct information is always difficult to do, and it's difficult to try to trust a website when their information may or may not be reliable, and it's difficult to reach a conclusion on what information is out on the internet nowadays.
So to solve the problem, we thought it'd be a good idea to create a web crawler for COVID. And so the web crawler would search the web and gather resources and articles. So it would spit out like a compiled list of resources for us, and we're hoping that we can get it to function where it will extract numbers and data in like some kind of a graph form. And after reading the graphs, charts, other resources that it finds, hopefully we can reach a conclusion.
And in terms of tools that we'd be using in our project, the first couple of links here are examples of a web crawler similar to what we would be trying to build. The first one's in Java and the second one's in Python. And we're trying to decide if we should use Java or Python. And within our team, our experience is more in favor of Java, especially with the NDSU curriculum. What they have us doing most of the projects have been in Java. But looking at these projects, especially for a web crawler, it looks like using Python is a lot more efficient language in terms of building a web crawler. And that kind of comes down to, we were looking and we found some of the libraries in Python actually lets you take the parse data that you send it to find, and it directly puts it out into like a spreadsheet for you directly into the output, which is something that is a little more difficult to do with Java, where you'd have to export it to like an external application like Microsoft Excel or something, and then take that data from there. So as of right now, we're still undecided, but we're looking through both options. And then in terms of team communication, mainly we're using Discord. Like right now, we're recording all our audios for this presentation over Discord. And then for sharing documents, we use Google Drive, since that's open source, easy to use. And then for actually sharing our repositories for our project, we'll probably be using GitHub, since that's something that most of us have experience using. There's also the option of Azure, but most of us are not familiar with that one. So I think for now, we'll probably use GitHub for sharing our files.
And some of the possible features with this web crawler, aside from the obvious, is we're thinking about a number of different parameters that we can use to input into the web crawler, or outputs to expect, I guess, either or, for varying results. There's a couple of different angles. There's a bunch of different angles you could take it from. You could search based on time, and that would be relevant because, before the outbreak, if you search for articles on COVID, like, it existed. It's just the amount of cases was significantly lower, and clearly there wasn't an outbreak. to be concerned about. So the data is going to be polarizing if you look for COVID articles in, I don't know, 2016, 2017 versus now. Even after the the United States shutting down the government, like pre and post that, the articles and stats are going to be different. You could search based on location, obviously, and if you search based on location and time, that's going to vary because the outbreak started in China, so at the same time but different locations, the stats are going to vary. Articles that contain information about New York, those are going to be worse off the rip. You could expect stats on death count, recovery rates, hospitalizations, and closures. Another thing that you could do is instead of searching for articles with COVID references, you could just search for things like school closures. And there's a high chance that in 2020, especially in the spring and mid-year, if you're reading an article on a school closure, it's going to be referencing COVID in one way or another. And then obviously just mentions of the word and other things like that. You could scrape social media resources and find stuff like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, away from social media resources, you could filter the data based on official sites only to increase reliability. So any of these things could be inputs or expected outputs, but we're still undecided as to exactly how many of these we're going to implement. And ultimately, it's just going to break down to time and how much time we have to work this all out. So, yeah, that's our project.